Hey, I got a quick question for you. Are you showing up as the expert authority in your business, making sure that your message is on point and your branding is reflective of your go to authorityness? Hi, I'm Christine Blosdale, your expert authority business coach, and I have a way for you to rate your expert authority prowess. And you can check it out at expertauthorityquiz.com. It's fun, it's easy, and it's something that you really should be doing to see where you level up. If you want to establish trust with your audience and potential customers and clients, you might want to take this quiz. Once again, head on over to expertauthorityquiz.com. That's expertauthorityquiz.com. Welcome to the Expert Authority Coach Podcast, the one-stop spot for entrepreneurs, coaches, authors, and business owners just like you who are ready to rise, shine, and finally be seen as the go-to authority in their field. I'm your host, Christine Blosdale, also known as the Expert Authority Coach, and my mission is to help you build a magnetic brand, grow your visibility, and turn your expertise into real, lasting influence and income. If you want to dive deeper, head on over to my website, expertauthoritycoach.com, where you can explore all the groovy stuff that I've created for you. And you can even book a free discovery call with me. I'd love to hear from you. Once again, head on over to expertauthoritycoach.com to book that free call today. And if you're enjoying the show, please make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with someone who's ready to step into their expert authority as well. You can share the love, and only good karma will come back to you. I promise. Alrighty, so let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back to the Expert Authority Coach podcast. I am that Expert Authority Coach, Christine Blosdale, and I'm really happy to be with you today with an extra special guest. You know, a lot of these episodes, we talk to some of my clients about their journey with me as a coach. I also talk to experts in their own field about tips and strategies that they can help us with. But then I also really love speaking to professional coaches themselves and finding out what makes them tick, what pet peeves they have maybe, but also the passion that they have about being a coach and some of the wins that they've had in their career. And today is no exception. Today I am joined by expert executive coach and best-selling author of What Lights You Up, Illuminate Your Path and Take the Next Big Step in Your Career. She has 30 years of leadership experience across media, tech, healthcare, and more. She's also the founder and CEO of MVP Executive Development. Of course, I'm talking about Mary Olson Menzel, who's joining me today. Hello, Mary.
Hello, Christine. It is so good to be here.
It is so good to see you. And I am really excited because you're actually my first executive coach that I
Oh,
am getting to speak with, which is really wonderful because, you know, the stuff that I do, I'm working a lot of times with solopreneurs, women in business. 99.9% of my clients are, of course, women. And after the whole COVID thing, we understand that a lot of people, women and men, had to pivot. And I know that this is something that is a strong suit and something that you also work with your clients on is that pivoting. We're going to get into that in a second, but tell me, did you always dream as when you were little 5-year-old, 6-year-old, did you always dream of being a coach or was it something else that you wanted to be?
love it. Did anybody dream of being a coach other than a child who wants to be like a football coach or something like that?
Right.
I don't even know if I knew what a coach was when I was 5. So when I
Yeah.
was 5, I wanted to be a figure skater or a movie star.
Oh,
A
that's
little bit,
adorable.
did a lot of pivots since then.
Yeah. Well, then how did you get into coaching? How did you get started?
I was very lucky. So, funny, like talk about pivots, career journey that I've had. Started my career as a television reporter, but I was literally reporting the news, teaching aerobics, working at the clinique counter at a department store just to make ends meet because, the young reporters start at the
Yeah.
bottom.
I know, girl. I was one.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you were. Exactly, exactly. So you remember those days. So
Yeah.
what I realized was I'm curious about people. I'm curious about the story, just like you. What makes people
Yeah.
tick? And so I decided that I didn't want to move from small market to small market. And I went to go talk to somebody at a recruiting firm, and they recruited me to be a recruiter. They said, take
That's
your interviewing skills and put them in a different direction to help people find jobs. And that was music to my ears because I literally love helping people. So there was that. So I went into recruiting, worked in the tech space, worked in media, as you know.
yeah.
And then at the media company that I was working at, I was trained in coaching. And so I learned to be a coach at this lovely Midwestern company called Tribune Company
Mm.
based in Chicago. And the rest was history. Then I started my own business in 2012 doing coaching and recruiting.
Yeah, when I'm looking at your bio, I'm like, oh, she beat me on she's got 30 years experience with this stuff. I was like, for the longest time, I was very proud of my media kit in my bio. I'm like 25 plus years and I was like, oh, wow, she started when she was 5. No, she started really a long time ago. But
Means
you had a similar path as mine. Mine was 20 years in broadcast radio and that media end being the personality behind the mic and speaking to
yes,
people. And it was the same thing. I sort of had that draw. I would be talking to people and in my mind as I'm interviewing somebody who's already, amazing, maybe they've written a book or something that they're not famous for, but successful on. And I would be thinking of all these things that they could do that they haven't done yet as I'm interviewing them. And I'm like, oh my God, don't say that. Don't talk about that yet. Wait till after the interview and then say, hey, have you ever thought about doing this or that? And so I had that draw myself and wanted to be a teacher. Now,
mm,
when I went to college, did the whole university thing to become a teacher, got my teaching credential, and then, Mary, I found out how much they pay first year teachers and where they send you and what you have to
yes,
do. And I was like,
yes.
oh, no, girl, I can't do that. So I did the same, somewhat similar to what you did, is to pay off all those student loans and everything. Got into aerobics. I started teaching aerobics because that was the thing,
I
wasn't
love
it?
it. Yes.
But that was also a beginning step into coaching
Mhm.
because you had to inspire people. First of all, I had to get up really early in the morning, but like
Mhm.
you get there and at 6 a.m., if there's one person or if there's 20, you have to inspire them to move their body and to do all this stuff and all that great. But there's psychology that's involved. Is it not? Being a coach or being an aerobics instructor, there's still some psychology that you need to have.
Absolutely. And it is so much about that, Christine. That's such a great way of looking at it. We're all coaches are about motivating and inspiring people to do great things.
Yeah.
And so our aerobics instructors, we're motivating and inspiring people to get up, get out of bed at 6 in the morning and work out so that they can take care of their bodies.
Well, I had lured mentioned a bit about pivoting, and you know, I know that during COVID, many of my clients and many of people around the world had to really quickly pivot. Uh,
Yes.
those that didn't found themselves in a very precarious situation, but many people were losing their jobs, were underemployed, right? Because there are cutbacks and
Mhm.
things like that. Can you talk about maybe what was going on in your world during COVID and with your clients? How did you guide them through that process? Because that was a scary time for everybody, I think, too. But how did you help them with their pivots?
Yes, it was a scary time. And once again, you talked about teachers. Just shout out to the teachers who had to pivot
Yes,
and teach all of our kids during that time because man, I think teachers should be paid a whole lot more than they get paid because they do
me too.
I mean they're shaping the next generation of the world. But that being said, just needed to say that. That being said, our business took a really interesting turn at that time. We were doing 50% retained executive search, so recruiting, 50% leadership coaching, executive coaching, and career coaching. And during COVID, people stopped hiring, right? To your
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So our recruiting practice just like came to a screeching halt.
Mm.
And I had a whole handful of recruiters that I needed to keep employed. And what ended up happening as well was our coaching business quadrupled in
Wow.
demand
Yeah.
because
Huh?
everybody was soul searching and decided, okay, if I'm laid off, I can reinvent myself. I can do whatever whatever it takes to find a job I love. But also leaders needed to know how to lead through crisis and how to lead through ambiguity and remote
Right.
workforce and hybrid workforce eventually. So there was so many things changing that MVP, my firm, had to do another pivot too. And I did a lot of soul searching. My son, who was 10 or 11 at the time, and this is in the book What Lights You Up, about a pivot, looked at me. I was exhausted. I had a, college sophomore at home, a high school senior, and a fourth grader at home. So
Oh,
I'm, dealing with all that, running my business, making sure that, people are fed, wearing my mask to the grocery store, all that. And he wanted me to play basketball with him one day. And he said, Mom, will you play basketball with me? And I said, honey, I had my computer. I was outside. I felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders. And he said, Mom, you talk to people about being lit up. He said, you tell people to do what lights you up. He said, you don't look very lit up right now, Mom.
oh, that's so
Yeah.
adorable. Oh my God.
Right.
Oh, it makes me
And
cry.
I,
Yeah.
I mean, it almost brought me to tears. I was like, oh God, honey. And I almost just said, no, I'm fine. And then I was like, no, 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 no. These are the reflections that our children give us. Right. And
Yeah.
so I took it to heart. And so in 2021, I said to my recruiters, I said, I'll train you to become a coach, or I'm going to phase out the executive search side of the business, but I'll give you a year to find a new job.
Wow. Cool.
And so my recruiters were really good, really talented, and
Yeah.
they all found jobs within a couple months. And so I got to stand in my own truth and the truth that I preach about to my clients and in my book, and stand there and do what I love. And what I love is the coaching and the leadership side of the business.
Yeah. Well, that's absolutely evident. And that's something that I try to also reiterate to my clients as well is if you're passionate about it, it will come through and it'll shine. And
Mhm.
that's how you become the expert authority. It's not based on how many diplomas you have on the wall or how many credentials you've earned. It's actually fueled by that passion. And
Mhm.
your audience, your clients or your customers, they will be magnetized to you when you're standing in your passion. If you're playing it and you're portraying it and you're trying to be like someone else, or you're doing that comparison thing and you're like, well, they do this, they wear those kind of glasses, so I'm going to wear, then it doesn't work. It has to come from that genuine
Mhm.
passion from inside. And so that with that pivot, and again, I think, Mary, too, even though COVID is behind us, quote unquote, I think a great deal of us are still suffering PTSD from that time. And yet
Yes.
we're very, you know, we're as human beings, we're very much like, okay, that's the past. We're gonna get on and we're gonna do better. We're gonna keep going. But I think we still suffer from that a bit. Do you feel that there's not remnants of that, but that there is a bit of that PTSD in the business world as well as in the solopreneur world?
Yes. Yes. I feel like there's this long tail. They talk about long COVID that people are affected with physically. I think there's a long tail to the, results of COVID and what has been happening in our world.
Yeah.
People, I mean, I think that it's crazy. I mean, you think about from a business standpoint, people are just still very wobbly, is what I would say. And, then you look at the political environment all over the world, right? Not
Ooh,
just in the US.
yes.
And that makes people a little bit more wobbly. So it's right now about resilience and also though about authenticity and vulnerability.
Yeah.
We urge our leaders, you know what? It's okay to be vulnerable in front of your people. you are a human being. And I think that is the silver lining that COVID brought us, is it was the great humanizer. We
Yeah.
were all on our Zooms figuring it out. We had dogs, we had kids, we had everybody coming through our screens, and it I think made the CEO they were able to come off of like that ivory, come out of the ivory tower
Yeah.
and come down and be a leader of the people. And so the more we see CEOs coming down from the ivory tower, being vulnerable, being authentic, trusting in their people, and figuring out, back to that, inspiring and motivating. How do I inspire and motivate each of my people? Then those are the leaders that are really going to get the most out of their teams and
Yeah.
the most out of the organization.
I wholeheartedly agree. There's always, in my career working in radio and broadcasting, there was that hierarchy, right? You had the general manager of the station and then the director of the organization. And for the longest time there's that division. It's like the general manager is going, my word is the last word, and if I walk by the thing and everybody's acting busy because they hold the keys to their employment. And I was very lucky at a particular time in my career there. I had the opportunity. I was a union steward, on air talent, producer, blah blah blah, never in a management position. And then one day I was asked from the organization to become the general manager of the station for a short while because it was great. There was some stuff going on, right? We need to find a new general manager, and then that search is going to take just a little while. But in the meantime, they came to me and asked me, and I said, well, I was like, why? Why did you pick me? I'm on air talent. I don't know anything about a radio station managing it. And they said, we went around the station and asked everybody, who do you trust? And they said,
Oh,
overwhelmingly, your name came up when we said, who do you trust? And I was like, oh, that's wonderful. But also, I was terrified because the imposter syndrome came in where I was like, I don't know how to. If I look at an Excel sheet, I want to vomit. I am not a numbers person. I am not a board member person dealing with the all the technical stuff that you have to budget. And I just said, I don't know about this. And they said, we think you can do it. Just please, it's just for a short while, a couple weeks, few weeks, 6 weeks. It ended up being a year. And in that year, I grew, and being in a leadership position, my whole thing, my style was to be just as one of the team. I had to make those final decisions, and I had to be, kind of the parent, I guess you'd say, pull people
mm-hmm.
up when they're misbehaving. But if I walked down the hallway and I saw a piece of trash on the floor, I didn't walk by it. Or if the kitchen was a mess, I didn't walk by it and think that someone
Mm-hmm.
else lesser than me is going to do it. I actually went ahead and just picked it up or cleaned up the kitchen. And
Yeah.
that leadership style really also showed everybody that there isn't that hierarchy. Yes, there's
Mm.
certain things that are going to have to be moved up to that position to deal with legally and things like that. But when things need to be done, everybody needs to pitch in, right?
Yes. Yes.
I
And
think that's so important for people to realize, those that are in a leadership position and management.
well, yes, it sounds to me like you are a true humane leader,
Mm,
Christine.
mm,
And I think, the key to leadership is knowing that you don't have all the answers, but knowing
yeah.
that you can also, yeah, and knowing that smart leaders surround themselves with people who do know how to do the spreadsheets and who do know how to do the marketing, et cetera, et cetera. And so you had that, obviously, you had already had the trust of the people.
Yeah.
And then you just had to kind of come in, surround yourself with the right people and figure it out. There's a old professor of mine. He's not old. I mean, he's a little bit old, but he's older than we are.
Yeah.
He's not old. He's
Yeah.
very young in spirit. His name is Harry Kramer, and he was a professor of mine at Northwestern at Kellogg. He's written several books. He's one of the most amazing leaders that I know. He was the CEO of Baxter, and he used to walk the floor and talk to the janitor about the Cubs game and talk to you
Yeah.
know the secretary about something else, and it was the most beautiful thing. He knew everybody by name. He was just so human.
Yeah.
And that is the kind of leader that people want to get behind, and that's the kind of leader that people will work hard to produce results for.
Because also it's a smart thing to do because
Yeah.
the receptionist, you want to know and make sure the receptionist is cool and happy because that's the first point of entry that some people have to the business. And the same
Exactly.
thing with the janitor. You want to make sure that they're also happy and paid well as well
Hmm.
because this is the hygiene of your business as well. I mean, there's so many different layers, but I think it all boils back down to what my mother taught me to always to be respectful of everyone, and
Yes.
especially people who are working hard. She said that the guy that's driving around in the truck picking up your trash, you never know. One day he might be studying to become an open heart surgeon. And one day
Hmm.
you'll be you might lay there and go look up at this kid, or now he's a man, and you might go, oh my goodness, this is the person that used to, take out my trash. And
Hmm.
that really sat with me for a very long time because you don't know what people go through, you don't know their experiences, you don't know how hard they're working. So that respect, and I believe in karma. I'm not to get woo woo, but I'll get woo woo. I believe in that
Like,
karma. It's an energy.
yeah.
It's an energy force,
Mhm.
and I really do believe that it pays to pay attention and to be concerned about people because
Yeah.
they work for you. You know, and you want to make sure that the cogs are everybody's happy and spinning so that also if there's a problem they'll come to you as well. um,
Exactly.
Now with coaching with the folks that you work with, I'm wondering if you, for those people who are listening, who are excited, who maybe have been thinking about becoming a coach or who have just started off, and they might be a life coach, they might be a business coach, they might be a fitness coach, you never know. But any advice for them, for those that are just starting out, that you can give them?
Yes, yes. I think, the first piece of advice I would say, or the first thing I would say is bravo, congratulations. You're out there in a profession that wants to help people.
Hmm.
And I think that the more experience, most people want to get a certification in order to become a coach, or they learned through whatever organization they were in. But once you kind of put that line in the sand, I want to be a coach, then the universe starts to, I'm going to get woo woo for a second.
It's
The
okay.
universe
Go
starts
woo woo,
to,
girl.
the universe starts to conspire and bring the right people to you so that
Yeah.
you can get the right practice, right? Because part of being a great coach is, wisdom and seasoning and experience. And so you start small, take on a couple new clients, every month. You don't have to even charge a lot of money at first.
Yeah.
Just really, really do it so that you're getting the experience and you're feeling like you're making a difference. And then you can expand. You can, design a 1, 3, 5 year plan, but really just, jump in, dip your toe in or jump in full, full body if you want, whatever your personality is like. But, I give everybody credit for just starting and starting where they want to go and helping people.
Yeah. We need more people helping people. And I'll give my tip is practice the art of listening.
Hmm. Yes.
And don't listen to talk, but listen, like really listen. And when I say listen, it's not even just listening to a client tell you their issues or what they want. It's the things that they don't say, right? It's the
Yeah.
things that they say. Okay, not jot that down, the things that they say, but then the things that they don't say, and really listen with that other ear. I don't even know what that would be called. The third ear, I guess. It's like the third eye.
Yes.
It's the
Yes.
third ear,
Yeah.
right? I think
Yeah.
that can be really helpful for people, for coaches. Oh my gosh, Mary, I loved our conversation, and I would love to have you back anytime. You're amazing. The If people want to find out more about you and get a hold of your books, where do they go?
Well, they can go anywhere books are sold. Anywhere in the
Right.
world. They can go to Amazon, but there is a website where if they go to my website, Mary Olson Menzel, which is MaryOlsonMenzel.com, they can get a free downloadable workbook so that they can get started immediately, even before the book arrives in their mailbox.
Oh, nice.
So yes. And please, if any of this resonates with you, buy the book, of course, but also connect with me on LinkedIn. Our network is our superhighway that helps us get everywhere we need to go.
Yes, LinkedIn is the place, especially for those that are thinking about being an executive coach or working with wonderful Mary. You can check her out on LinkedIn. I'll have links to your website, Mary, and a link to the book as well. And just thank you so much for your time and for the great work that you've done over your career. I'm very pleased to meet you and excited about what the future holds for you as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The feeling is mutual. Let's keep talking.
All right, Mary. And
Okay.
thank you, wonderful listeners and viewers. If you're watching this on YouTube, you get to see my amazing guest. We're waving at you at the moment. Hello. And you can watch us on YouTube, subscribe if you like, and share the show if it's inspiring to you or you think someone that you love and hold dear would be inspired by it, share it with them as well. If you want more information, of course, about this podcast, about the programs that I do, my coaching, you can go to expertauthoritycoach.com. That's expertauthoritycoach.com. All right, until next time, keep going after your dreams. Keep being passionate and do not let anything stop you. Mary here is an example of what you can accomplish. All right, until next time, take care, everybody.